Hello, welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I am the other guy, Corwin Hiller. I guess I will turn some lights on because I just realized how dark it is in my room.
And in your soul. Welcome to the Thursday episode of the show. If you're listening to this, it is December 2nd, which means that we are likely in an MLB lockout situation. We're recording this on December 1st, which was the end of the tender deadline for MLB teams, which means basically if you wanted to have someone under contract for the 2022 season and beyond, that contract had to be tendered or offered or whatever to that player before today and accepted before today. So this is it. There's not going to be any more moves. I don't think you could even discuss contracts with players or teams until after the CBA has been resolved. So the dam is sealed shut, but we got quite a few big contract signings happen right at the buzzer between, the end of Thanksgiving and today pretty much, or really even the end of since the last time we recorded it today, which really not a big gap. So I guess let's start with some of the more marquee ones and maybe get a little bit less interesting as we go on, and we can skip around a little bit. And let's start with the Corey Seager contract because, oh boy, that was wild. So Corey Seager signed a 10-year, $325 million contract with the Texas Rangers. And boy, that's a contract. And I would like to say, when the Rangers signed Marcus Semien, I said he's listed as a shortstop, but I could definitely see him playing second and them still being in the hunt for Corey Seager or Carl or Trevor Story or whoever, and try to find a different shortstop to be their guy forward and have Semien just play second. And it looks like that's exactly what they decided to do, because after they shelled out a 7-year, $175 million contract for Marcus Semien, they turned right around and issued a 10-year, $325 million contract for Corey Seager. So they committed $500 million to their middle infield in back-to-back days. And man, that is a contract.
That makes so much more sense to why Corey Seager would sign with a team like the Texas Rangers. Holy fuck. He's 27 and he signed a 10-year, $32 million AAV deal. What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, just fucking wild. And we'll obviously, talk about this and how this affects the Carlos Correa eventual contract in a minute. But even just looking at Corey Seager himself, this is an interesting contract.
What the fuck?
I know. So Corey Seager already through his seven seasons. Oh my God, it's been that long. Wow. Has amassed 21.3 WAR. So it's it's about 3 WAR a season. And you might be saying to yourself, 3 WAR a season doesn't seem to be $300 million worth of WAR. And I think this is going to come down to how you judge player value. And we've talked about this before. We don't know how teams value players. We have WAR and we use it conversationally because it's easy, but we don't know how teams actually value the stats that combine to make WAR. And if you're looking at Corey Seager, what you're getting is a pretty okay defender, an okay to mediocre to slightly below mediocre defender, but you're getting a pretty good bat. Corey Seager's OPS plus by season, starting with 2015, 174. That was 27 games. 134, 126, 103. That was also a 26 game season for him. 112, 150, 145. And if you're looking for shortstops that will pretty consistently get his career average OPS plus is 131. And if you're looking for shortstops that are also going to be 31% better than your average MLB shortstop at hitting, those guys are pretty rare. And if that's the main metric that the Texas Rangers care about, in addition to the fact that Corey Seager can probably pretty likely be transitioned over to third base at some point in his career, then maybe it's not that bad. Maybe this is exactly the guy that they wanted. But fuck, that is just wild to look at.
That's so much fucking money, man. That's unreal. Who would you rather have for the next decade, him or Fernando Tatis?
Well, that's a tough question because I'm not sure Tatis is going to be a shortstop.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, I'd much rather give up that position certainty for both the upside and cost of Fernando Tatis.
I mean, you're not, if we're going strictly based on hitting, it's Tatis in a heartbeat. And if Tatis can find success elsewhere in the field on defense, maybe it's a net gain enough for him to be worth it. But as of right now, I'd call it a draw because of how not good Tatis is at defense.
Tatis, I don't think that's fair to say. Tatis is not bad at making defensive plays. He's really bad at staying focused throughout the entire game and not just, he commits a lot of errors. Absolutely. Just an insufferable amount of errors. He cleaned it up a hell of an amount, at the second half of the season, but he makes a ton of spectacular plays and spectacular throws, but you just see so many lowlights because of, man who is that good at baseball shouldn't be making that many errors. And he shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's okay, but it's not nearly as bad of an overall defensive package as one would assume from that.
Okay. And you know what? I think that's probably fair. Errors is also a tough metric because usually the best defenders in baseball will also be pretty high up in the errors category, due to the fact that they make so many plays that most other players wouldn't get the chance to even attempt to make. So it's tough using errors. And I don't really, where Nando sits is weird. And part of it comes down to the fact that defensive metrics very much so depend on which defensive metrics you're looking at. And so if you look at DWAR, which is Baseball Reference's version of defensive WAR, they have Nando at a negative 0.2 DWAR, and DWAR has Corey Seager at, for this past season, 0.5. So that's 0.7 production WAR more than Tatis. But if we were to go over to Baseball Savant or StatCast, they have Fernando Tatis Jr. at a 74th percentile for outs above average, which is good. That's very good. And they had Corey Seager at 6th in the 6th percentile, which is awful, fucking awful. And so once again, that's why I'm willing to call this kind of a wash, because it really depends where you're looking. And I think if it's this up and down, they're probably relatively equal.
Yeah. And it comes down to, I guess, just how they reach those defensive totals. I don't know. I can't say I'd rather have a guy who makes a bunch of spectacular plays, but also makes a bunch of errors over a guy who's just out there doing what he does and not doing what he doesn't. And just, I don't know. I'm not a baseball coach. I don't fucking know.
I'm not a Hall of Fame baseball person.
It's true. I am not in the Hall of Fame.
To quote the great Tony La Russa, not a Hall of Fame baseball person. Yeah, and then it's like, so UZR hates both.
A bit of a non sequitur. I quoted an athlete the other day, like you just quoted our boy. I quoted Michael Jordan when a cashier asked if I wanted to round up
fuck
my
them
total.
kids.
I said, okay, thanks for reaching the conclusion of the story. I said, fuck them kids.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you want to round up the 53 cents and make it, $13 total and donate that total to whatever? Fuck them kids. He snorted. It was funny. Everyone
Also, those
clapped.
things are scams, but that's a whole separate discussion.
Correct. You are a multi-billion-dollar company and you want me to donate money? You fucking prick. You want me to donate money in your name?
Yeah, that's the thing. They just write it off. It doesn't, whatever. We're not getting there. So let's get back to Corey Seager. So this, it's a fascinating move for the Rangers. You have to respect it. If we're being honest here, you have to respect it because go ahead.
It's everything that we tell or everything we say these teams should be doing. They're a team with a rich owner who's spending insane amounts of money that they do have to make their team a contender. That's everything. We've wanted this forever.
And it's not the long drawn out losing teams that we've seen from the Tigers and Marlins and Orioles and Angels and Royals and everybody. They bottomed out relatively quickly and are now being like, all right, well, like we reset our luxury tax threshold by a fuck ton. We didn't spend any money in years. Here we fucking buckle the fuck up. Here we fucking go. And they're doing it in important positions and in positions that they really struggled in last season. So if we look at Marcus Semien first, Marcus Semien, and even if we don't take his just last year's WRC plus or OPS plus, which was 133, even if we take the career of 110, last year's second baseman for the Texas Rangers, Nick Solak, had an 87 OPS plus, which means that Marcus Semien's regular season 2021 OPS plus was almost 50 points higher than that. And even his career, which is lower, is still almost 25 points higher than that. Mm-hmm. So that's a massive upgrade at the second base position, just looking at hitting. And then likewise, if we look at their longtime shortstop, Isaiah, not long time, but their main guy at shortstop, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he had an 85 OPS plus there last season, whereas Corey Seager last season had a 145, which is 60 points more, and his career OPS plus of 131 is still 45 points higher than that. Mm-hmm. They're two massive upgrades at those positions of need. Then you can fucking do with Solak as you fucking wish. And Kiner-Falefa, because he's such a brilliant defender, can just become your bench and defensive replacement guy.
Right. That was what I was going to say. It's like, yes, you're going from a guy who's a plus defender to an okay defender, but you're getting, what is that, 65 points in OPS plus, which is
easy.
Fucking massive.
And actually, it's higher if you think about the fact that you can then replace Brock Holt at third base, likely with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And last year, Brock Holt had an OPS plus of 61. So even getting to put in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa with only 85, that's still 24 additional points of OPS plus that you're knocking, that you're adding into the lineup by taking out your weaker player.
Right.
This upgrade is huge looking at just the offensive side of things.
And it's already, you're bringing in a guy who is now the best player on your team, regardless of how much you're upgrading that single position. Bringing in a superstar caliber player, a leader that's going to be in the clubhouse is fucking huge. Massive cap.
Yeah, it is. It's now the actual term of the contract, we got a 27-year-old shortstop who was a rookie of the year winner in 2016. Slight injury history, slight, not huge. Career-wise, good hitter, okay defender, who got $32.5 million per season. That brings us over to Carlos Correa.
Such an insane amount of money.
I know. Carlos Correa, who was not signed yet,
$1 billion.
is the same age as Corey Seager. and has slightly more WAR than him. Not slightly. Sorry, my bad. I forgot what Corey Seager's WAR was. Has 13 more WAR than him.
Yeah.
In the same 7-year span.
Okay, never mind.
Same 7-year span. Also was a Rookie of the Year winner. His career OPS plus is actually slightly lower because he had a pretty rough season last year. For him, it was a 93 OPS plus last season.
It's hard to stop cheating.
Yeah, truly abysmal. But has been literally just won a Platinum Glove this year.
Yeah.
Like a very, very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
And with that increased level of production, granted, right-handed bat versus left-handed bat, and there's always a slight premium on left-handed pitchers and hitters because there, generally speaking, are fewer of them, so they are coveted a little bit more. It makes you wonder, though. I mean, if Seager's getting a full 10 years and over 30 mil per season to boot, what the fuck does Correa get? Because we're talking about Seager, and off the jump, we're talking about the idea that he might end up moving to third base at some point within the next 5 seasons. Correa, I mean, that guy's not moving from shortstop for a while.
35? Do you think he gets 35 a year? I guess I need to pull up actual numbers and go to StatCast.
Bruh, I don't even know. I could not even tell you.
StatCast is not what I want. What do I want?
Baseball Savant.
No, for contract numbers.
Oh, Spot Track.
Spot Track, not StatCast. Spot Track. It's
now
just amazing how fucking happy that we signed Fernando Tatis to a goddamn 14-year deal when we did. Positions. Let's go to shortstop. Update. Wow, Francisco Lindor makes $34 million a year.
Yeah.
What's the difference between, do I want total cash or payroll salaries, average salaries?
Who are you looking at?
Just, I'm trying to sort shortstops. I don't really know what numbers I want. I guess average salary. I'll take Fernando Tatis at 24 million 10 times out of 10 for 14 years. Holy shit. He's making 1 million more per year than Javier Báez. Yeah, I'll take that 10 times out of 10.
Lindor's making $34 million next year?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I hope he improves.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and they haven't put the Corey Seager figure in here yet, but they will.
They did. 32 and a half.
I don't see it on mine.
Go to average salaries. That's what I did.
Regardless, it's going to be ungodly. It's going to be it's going to be wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I actually wonder if because of the AAV being pretty high with the 32.5, if maybe you go more years. Like how if you were Carlos Correa, how would you feel about 12 years, whatever that is, $375 million? So the AAV is relatively similar, but you get 2 extra seasons.
I guess, yeah.
Because that'd be 31.25 million per year, which would be a little bit lower than Seager. But those 2 extra seasons, well, one, mean that you are going to get paid for 2 extra seasons. And 2 could potentially give you a little bit more. I mean, you'd be paying Carlos Correa until he turns 39, but
you're getting him at what will be a manageable number for a long time.
And honestly, you could front load it. Oh, and that's one of the things that I saw about Seager's contract. It is that it is quite front loaded, apparently. I think he's making like the first 140 mil like pretty quick into the contract. Let me see if the details are in Spot Track yet. Which is interesting because I wonder if that means that they're trying to give room for him to potentially be traded later in the contract to get better prospects back. Because that's one of the tough parts about backloaded contracts, like Stanton's contract. Like, yeah, you know, it means you're paying him less up front, and you can try to trade him later in the contract to avoid having to pay him when theoretically he's starting to live up to that contract. But it also means that because the salary's high, you're not going to really get anything back. You're just going to do it for pure payroll dump. Whereas if you haven't been spending money recently, like the Rangers haven't, and you can afford the majority of the dollars due up front, so that in the later years, should you need to tear down and trade a star player, you can actually get good prospects back. This would be a way to do it. I mean, it would be smart, honestly.
Can we see those numbers of how it's structured?
Usually, when Spot Track will update eventually, but I don't have.
We're just not there yet.
I don't think we're there yet.
All right. That would be interesting to see. I'm trying to think. At this point, I fully expect the Yankees to sign Carlos Correa. They have too much money. They've just been shown up in free agency, I guess, the past 2 years now. They're a team that won't allow that to happen consistently, at least in my mind. I don't know if Hal is choosing to play Moneyball at this point, but I really see the Yankees spending a lot of money to get Correa. And I'm very curious to see just exactly how high they're willing to get.
It's going to be a lot.
Because the bidding war is going to start.
Oh, it's probably well underway. And I honestly think that's probably why Seager signed and Correa didn't before the lockout, because you almost have to wonder if Seager benefits from the lockout in that teams are trying to sign who they can sign. There's a premium on time, and Corey Seager is able to just capitalize on that. Plus, the ever rising price of Correa's contract likely raises the price of Seager. Whereas it's not in Correa's best interest to sign, potentially, I mean, before the lockout, because there might be some type of changes in the collective bargaining agreement that allow for him to make more money, I don't know what other differences there would be other than term and size, but something that makes it more appealing for him to wait.
And I think there's something to be said about Seager acknowledging that he's not getting the size of a contract. Like, the contract Seager is going to sign will not match that of Carlos Correa. There's just no chance that he signs as large of a contract. So this is basically hedging the idea that, all right, if Correa doesn't sign a truly historic contract, I can get what's coming to me. That won't affect my deal. Because if Correa signs the exact deal Seager just signed, they offered it to both guys. Correa accepted, Seager didn't. He just cost himself money because he's not going to get that same contract.
Right.
Whereas, Correa is saying, yeah, I'd go ahead, Corey, sign for whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you sign because I'm getting more. No matter what you do, I'm going to do better.
Yeah, it's very much so in Correa's best interest to have Corey Seager sign first to help set the tone, provided he thinks Seager gets a big fucking contract. And man,
which, don't get me wrong, he's still Corey Seager. He's still going to get a very large contract.
All right, Corwin, who has the bigger contract in terms of overall size? Corey Seager or Giancarlo Stanton?
Oh, total size,
right? Because obviously Stanton's contract has been going for a while, so what's left is less. But
so 320 total for Seager. I want to say Giancarlo's was 350.
So it's 325 for Seager. And Giancarlo's was also 325.
Oh, wow.
And let's recall that was a record-setting contract.
We just spent time talking about one. I got that wrong. We have talked about the other. Got that one wrong too. I am wrong on all fronts.
That's all right. And what's wild is that Giancarlo Stanton's 325 contract, that was 13 years. So the AAV on that is 25 mil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Giancarlo,
and people had their fucking arms in the air, ranting and raving. He's too expensive. Get him off the team. And the Texas fucking Rangers are going to be dropping $7.5 million more per season to have a worse hitter on their roster. All right. Now, whose contract is bigger, Corey Seager or Bryce Harper?
Corey Seager.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
Bryce Harper.
Really?
Because Corey Seager and Giancarlo Stanton have the same size contract. Bryce Harper made a sticking point when he signed his contract to beat Giancarlo Stanton's contract to have the biggest contract. It's $330 million. So it's not much bigger. It's $5 million more, but it's bigger. So his average salary is $25.38 million. It's relatively negligible over the same term, over 13 years. And it was wild. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it felt like such a story when that was happening. I remember it feeling like such a story when Bryce hit free agency and everyone was like, what the fuck's this dude going to get? Is he going to set the record? And then he did set the record. And there was a whole bunch of articles about like, how do you live up to this? Like, this is such a huge contract. And Corey Seager, who's not even the biggest shortstop in free agency this year, basically got the better version of that contract.
Inflation, baby. Inflation.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, we're not even batting it. No one's even talking about it yet. Because if you write that article before the Correa contract, you're wasting your fucking time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you say because it's your point is going to be made even stronger once he signs.
For real. Think about it. Dude, I asked Corwin before we started recording, did you see the Corey Seager contract? And his answer was no. And that's not because he doesn't pay any attention. It's because, first off, there was a flurry of contracts. It's easy to miss one. And also, it wasn't made a big deal.
Yeah. He
has like the second most expensive contract in baseball, all of baseball, that he just signed. It's got to be one of the highest AAVs for position players ever. And no one fucking cares because it's not even going to be the biggest of this offseason.
I mean, it just goes to show why granted, we're talking about sums of money that are so utterly massive that it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But it just goes to show why you really shouldn't be signing massive long-term deals because they get outdated immediately. Like A-Rod is an exception. Albert Pujols, pretty much an exception. But like Giancarlo signed 4 years ago? And his contract's already getting dwarfed by $10 million a year?
Oh my God, it wasn't.
Dude was coming off an MVP
I'm looking at Bryce.
season. Coming off an MVP season where he hit 50 home runs, and his contract is now dwarfed.
It was the 2016 season, it looks like, that he signed. No, sorry, the 2015 season where he signed that contract.
Well, fuck me up. What do I know?
7 years. That doesn't even feel real. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 7 seasons. Goddamn. But no, that's the point. We're halfway through Giancarlo Stanton's contract, and we're talking about like it's not a big deal. And the funny part is, every time a big contract like this gets signed, everyone oohs and ahs and says, oh, by the end of that contract, it's going to be an albatross because the player will be bad. But the problem is with inflation and the ever increasing size of contracts, what we look at as an albatross today, very, very much so likely will not be an albatross in fucking 10 years. Think about it. We're only halfway through Giancarlo Stanton's contract. In the last year of his deal, which is 2028, I think that might be a player option, club option. So let's go 2027 then. He'll be making $25 million in 2027. That's not much.
No,
It really, it's not that fucking much compared to what
He's
we're
gonna be
giving out today.
The fifth, sixth highest paid player in the Yankees at that point.
Honestly, depending on how free agency goes for the next fucking 5 years, might not even be that. I mean, I don't know, but it might not be.
Which is fucking insanity to think about.
Dude, we're going to finish talking about it in a second, or start talking about it in a second. But Javier Báez, who's like the third to fourth to fifth best shortstop available in free agency, not even in the game, like third to fifth best shortstop in free agency, signed for about $25 million a season, a little bit under, but still, that's the third to fifth best shortstop in free agency. So that's not like the high water mark exactly. Getting paid about the same as one of the best DHs in baseball. Like, that contract looks so manageable. And that's why, it obviously benefits teams in the long run, especially if you want to end up having these things front loaded, or even if you have them back loaded because of inflation. But we think about them as these massive things that really hamstring a team. That's just a team talking point. That's just propaganda.
I think it's crazy that the three biggest movers so far this year are the Detroit Tigers, Texas Rangers, and New York Mets. Which is good for baseball. Don't get me wrong. But it's just, if you gave me 10 guesses to name all three, maybe I would have gotten the Mets, but I doubt it. Excuse me.
I know. Real quick, another signing that the Rangers made, just to shout it out. They signed starting pitcher John Gray to a 4-year, $56 million contract. That's an AAV of 14 mil. John Gray was a pretty closely watched guy for where he would sign this offseason, with the starting pitching in free agency not being super great, and John Gray kind of being an up and down player in terms of his performance. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting in his rookie season in 2016, and is still only heading into his age 30 season. So there's a lot of baseball in front of him. His career ERA of about 4.6 obviously doesn't look great, but when he's been on, he's been on. He has a career low full season FIP of 3.18, which went along with an ERA of 3.67. And he's shown the ability to be better, and Colorado has shown the inability to form pitchers and to help the pitchers succeed. So it'll be really interesting to see him go to Texas, and it'll also is another I know it's only $56 million over 4 years. It's not a huge contract like the Corey Seager contract or any of the other contracts we've talked about so far, but it's still a very interesting sign from Texas that they're trying to really do something. They probably won't be good next year, but they'll definitely be way fucking would you be shocked? They won 60 games last season. What is the amount of wins you think they added with just these 3 signings? Number 3 starter, maybe, starting shortstop, starting second baseman. How many wins do you think those 3 players alone are worth?
What were they at 60? Yeah, I was
60.
I was going to say like 70 to 80 wins. So yeah, 15 is probably enough right there. I mean, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I did this. I was realizing I'm not holding a mic right now. How am I recording this podcast? And then I was like, right, I did the thing I always do. I don't understand how Colorado is such a truly inept franchise, where they knew they really weren't going to be able to get a deal. They didn't trade him last offseason.
John Gray. Sorry, my bad.
John Gray.
Yeah.
They didn't trade him at the deadline. They didn't trade him at any point. There was never any discussion of even moving John Gray. And now they have done nothing and received nothing in return. Didn't even offer him, really.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like a fucking hot mess. Did you see that they're apparently willing to bring back? They're willing to, they'd fucking get the opportunity, considering trying to bring back Trevor Story.
Fuck off.
And also target Chris Bryant.
You get nothing. You deserve nothing. why would anyone like? We just talked about this with the Rangers. Why would you want to side with the Rangers if you're a top free agent? Because they're dealing out a lot of money. Even if Colorado's dealing out a boatload of money, why would you want to sign there knowing that it's just going to be a waste of your time and you're only going to be mistreated?
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can make signing Trevor or Marcus Semien very well may have been, in addition to the massive contract, one of the reasons that Corey Seager chose to sign with Texas. Because even though the money might be colossal, a lot of players don't like playing for bad teams because then you never win. That's half the point of playing the game, is to win. And what you reach a certain point of income where it's going to not matter so much. Like if Corey Seager got offered $300 million to play $325 million to play for the Rockies, or $300 million to play for who's good, the Giants. Even though it's less money and probably higher taxes to play in San Francisco, I wouldn't be surprised if he picked San Francisco. They are good. They try to be good. The Rockies are a fucking dumpster fire.
They're a straight up disgrace.
And how much does $25 million over the course of 10 years really mean when you're making $300 million before endorsements?
Right. Excuse me.
Like, it's a comical amount of money.
Like, we're talking about amounts of money that are just a joke to us because the numbers are just meaningless, utterly meaningless.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hilarious that we can sit here and conceive of a player spitting on $2.5 million a year, since that's more than a lot of people make in their lifetime. But that's the world. That's the big wide world of sports. All right. Here, let's talk about some other contracts, because despite the fact that this conversation has been very good, we have spent a lot of time talking about very few players. So John Gray also signed in Texas. It's pretty cool. Tell your friends. Javier Báez, as we said, signed in Detroit, which is interesting. Detroit had been rumored to be in on Carlos Correa because AJ Hinch is managing in Detroit. He was the manager of the Astros while Correa was there. They haven't signed any very expensive players, so they certainly have the money. Detroit is a large market with deep pockets, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that they would have the ability to spend money. As of right now, I see the Tigers as 18th in payroll with 83 mil on the books. So even if you put $40 million, which is outrageous, on their payroll for the season, that would still only put them at 11th. And it wouldn't be 40, but just saying, even if you did, they'd only be at 11th in payroll. And that's nothing crazy. It'd be $120 million next season. So they could do it, is my point. And instead they went for Javier Báez. And this is kind of a weird contract for both parties, because $23 million per year, it's not bad. It's more than I figured the Tigers would spend, so I guess that's good. But for Javier Báez's sake, it doesn't feel like a lot of years, which might end up benefiting Javi, like 6 years from now.
Just like what we just said.
Right.
Oh, I didn't. I was just butting in for a single one-liner and completely ruining the flow of conversation.
No, not at all.
No.
So like we were just saying before, 6 years from now, Javi might still be a good player and be able to get enough money that the additional years not being in this contract won't make a difference, or even be a net positive that he ends up taking a shorter term to be able to cash in for another contract later on down the road. But it's interesting to see a guy who's not 30 get a less than 7-year contract. So, and in Detroit, which is interesting. Detroit obviously getting better, so I like this signing for them. Javi's not a great player, but he's a really solid player. He will swing at everything, but he often is better than he is bad. He's kind of a wacky dude like that. If you are remotely acquainted with baseball, you know that Javier Báez is raw entertainment value. He is a wacky ass hitter and usually good, sometimes bad, and a rather good defender. Yeah. So those are both things that Detroit sure could use. It's things every team could use.
If he's on your team, you think he's very underrated. If he's not on your team, and especially if he's on a rival, you think he's very overrated.
Right. I think that's probably a fair way to put it.
Which each their own.
Yeah, and he'll be taking the spot of Nico Goodrum, who cares about Nico Goodrum? He had an 82 OPS plus last season. His career OPS plus is 88. His career WAR in 5 seasons is 2.3. He earned 0.0 WAR last season. Javier Báez had a 4.5 WAR season last season with a 117 OPS plus. And his career numbers are obviously a little bit lower than that. He averages 4.4 WAR per season through 162 games and 104 OPS plus in a season average. But still, that's an improvement. And it also is not a lot of money. So you can definitely spend in other places as the seasons go on and try to improve the rest of your infield, as their outfield actually looks pretty decent, although you probably have to replace Nomar Mazara at some point. So yeah, not what I was expecting. I didn't hear anything about Javi to Detroit until it happened.
No, Javi's one of those guys where like when he's on, and I feel like he's always in headlines. But when he's bad, he's really bad, and he's in headlines. But I just haven't really thought of him at all until I saw this contract. Like, I know there was a lot of major shortstops on the market right now, and we are seeing that. But I truly just at no point was like, oh, I wonder where Javier Báez is going to go. He just was not on my radar whatsoever.
I think I just kind of assumed he was going to go back to the
Chicago?
Mets.
Or the Mets.
Oh,
yeah.
I figured the Mets. I figured he would take a really team-friendly deal to play with Lindor, since he made such a big deal of it during the regular season to get traded there, and then did. I kind of assumed he'd take a really wacky deal to stay in New York, which, I mean, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's not a huge difference maker for the Mets, but yeah. In terms of other signings that I seemingly came out of fucking nowhere, Robbie Ray, reigning Cy Young winner from Toronto, signed a 5-year, $115 million contract with Seattle.
Goddamn right they did.
With Saug City, the Mariners. Which, oh, god damn, who saw that coming?
Did literally anyone?
I mean, you gotta love this if you're a Seattle fan. You have to be fucking, creaming your pants about this one if you're a Seattle fan.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, Robbie Ray is not one of those guys who strikes me as I could see Robbie Ray being, a year-to-year, Cy Young contender here on out. I get guys figure it out late, and he's always kind of had that, strikeout ability. He's just never really been able to rein it all together. But I just don't trust Robbie Ray to go out and be a Cy Young contender year after year now. But man, if I'm the Mariners, that is such a good fucking deal. And that's such a fun chance to... Holy shit, how did I lose my train of thought so quickly?
You were mid-sentence, my friend.
Yeah, I was mid-sentence, and then it was gone. Yeah, Mariners, go. Good job. Have fun. Good luck.
You know what? You know what's wild? I'm doing the math right now just to see, but the Mariners have like no money committed to next season.
Really? How little is no money?
I believe after the Ray contract gets added, it'll be like after the Ray contract gets added, $73 million. if I'm reading this correctly, which it looks like I am, this is like it's nothing. Their next biggest contract appears to be Mitch Haniger at $8.5 million.
What?
Yeah, so it's Robbie Ray at 23, Mitch Haniger at 8.5, Adam Frazier at 7.5.
Holy fuck. Like, I knew they're young, and in turn, they don't have a whole lot of major contracts, but holy fuck.
Dude, a lot of these guys are rookie contract people. A lot of them.
Wow. They have so
Yeah.
much money to just go crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And whether they do go crazy this offseason or not, I'm not sure it matters, because it means that this also puts them into play for expensive free agents on bad teams for the trade deadline, in addition to obviously being in play for next season. Like, I don't necessarily know who that would be offhand, and I'm not going to look. I don't care. But every trade deadline, bad teams look to offload some big contracts, or at least it gets rumored. And the Mariners could be in a spot, man. The Mariners could be in the spot to fucking do that shit.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
even just this, obviously last season was magic and super duper special. So it's tough to look at that like it's completely, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Replicable, I'll say is the right word. Do againable is what I'm getting at there.
Sure. Yeah.
But, you know, they had 90 wins last season. And this year they're going to get a full season of Abraham Toro, who was better with them than he was with Houston. So, you know, take that for what it is. He was worth about 1 WAR in 60 games with them. So that's a solid like 3 WAR pace right there. 2.5 WAR pace. I would expect him to get better though. He's fucking 25. You're going to get a full season of Adam Frazier, who was a 4 WAR player last season.
And an all-star.
And an all-star.
And a 4th infielder.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, if you have, I'm trying to think where Abraham Toro, I guess Abraham Toro will probably take over for Kyle Seager at 3rd, since Kyle Seager's contract probably isn't getting renewed, and Adam Frazier would take over at 2nd. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty fucking solid. And look at the rotation. It'll probably be, I guess, Chris Flexen, Yusei Kikuchi, Marco Gonzalez, and I guess Robbie Ray will probably take over the main spot. It might be time to say goodbye to Justice Sheffield. I don't know. But regardless, I mean, look, I'm not trying to say that the Mariners are going to win the division next season. I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is that the Mariners won 90 games last year. Robbie Ray was worth 70 WAR last season.
70?
Sorry, 7 WAR last season. And Justice Sheffield was worth -2. So if you take out Justice Sheffield and you put in Robbie Ray, that's a 100-win team. I'm sorry, that's just the math.
That's a 99-win team, sir.
We're rounding up here, folks. That's a 100-win team.
Well, if they won 90, we might as well round up to 100 because that's how that works.
No, 99. I'm rounding that up to 100.
Fuck off.
So, the Mariners are going to, because, you know, the Astros only won 95, and they're losing Correa. That's -7 WAR. So they're only getting like 80-something wins. So really, the Mariners are running away with the AL West. All right, hold on. What would be more surprising to you? The Mariners winning their division with somewhere in the 90s range of wins, like 90 to 99, or the Rangers finishing 2nd in the division with somewhere between 80 and 90 wins. So what do you think is more likely is basically the question. The Mariners add on 1 to 9 more wins, or the Rangers win 20 to 30 more wins. Yeah.
The Mariners. And that's not a tough decision.
That's what we like to hear.
When was the last time a team added 30 wins season to season?
It's got to be one of those
find
Red
that?
Sox teams, right?
Sure.
Because they
I don't
went
know
worse
to
to
what you're
first.
referring.
They went worse to first a few times in the
Okay.
2010s.
Okay. You are welcome to look that up. That seems like something I don't want to do.
Yeah, I know you. I know you're not going to do things. So when I hear a good idea, I immediately start doing it.
I got that. Yeah.
So in 2012, the Red Sox won 69 games. And then in 2013, they won 97.
Well,
that is 28 games in one season.
It's close, but not quite. Sorry, you don't win. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200.
In 1994, the Red Sox won 54 games. In 1995, the Red Sox won 86 games for 32 additional wins in one season.
What year was that?
94 to although 94 did get strike shortened.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I shouldn't count that.
No.
Any other fun ones from you guys, Red Sox? Oh, here's one. Another strike shortened. Damn it. Damn you, 81.
Damn you, baseball negotiators.
Yeah, I don't feel like looking around too much longer for this.
I get it.
5 more minutes of this and I'm going to get upset.
That's a great Rick and Morty reference.
Thank you.
One of the best.
What can I say? I'm a real classic. All right. We still have at least one more gigantic contract that's worth talking about. And it is one that really, really felt like it wasn't going to happen. It really felt like it was a desperate attempt to be like, I'm quitting. I mean it. I'm going to walk right out the door if you don't stop me. I'm gonna do it. And that was that the Mets signed Max Scherzer after Andy Martino tweeted out like every 3 hours, like, oh, they're really gonna do it this time. They're really gonna do it. It's this close, seemingly to get someone to beat the Mets offer, and everyone was like, fucking no. And Max Scherzer was like, damn it. Fuck.
It really does look to be a deal that's like, I can't imagine Max Scherzer actively wanted to play for the Mets in any capacity, but it's like, I would be a fucking idiot not to accept this offer. Because that is a stupid, like, we talk about stupid money. That's stupid money.
So it is 3 years. Not a lot of years. Max Scherzer's old. He is 37. 37, I'm not old. But it is $130 million. And that makes the contract's AAV $43.3333333 million per season. Max Scherzer will make double per year what Kevin Gausman's going to make from the Blue Jays.
I mean, Francisco Lindor is the highest paid position player in all of baseball. And he is making $10 million a year more. That's fucking stupid.
Starling Marte signed a very nice contract for $19.5 million a season.
Yeah.
And that is less than half of what Max Scherzer is going to be making. Getting paid by the same team.
We just talked about him being a guy who should be an all-star every year. And he's not. And he's getting paid less than half of what Max Scherzer is. What?
What? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the funniest part is he's fucking worth it. He is a Cy Young contender every season, every year. This man comes in and everyone says, Max Scherzer is going to be cooked this year. It's finally going to be cooked. And then he fucking shoves. He had 5.2 WAR last season.
Yeah.
Finished third in Cy Young voting.
Yep. I mean, it's one of those things where, how many times have I said it's one of those things over the past 2 episodes?
Try over the past run of the show.
Really?
Yeah, that's your phrase, man.
Touche. I'm trying to think of an idiom to say in place of that, and I'm struggling. But I mean, we talk about these contracts and how there's always some amount of hedging included in the dollar amount, in the monetary figure, against a guy not performing up to expectations or up to his peak. If you knew you were getting 10-win Mike Trout for certain every year, without question, you'll pay that man $50 million a year because his market value is absolutely that when he's that good. But you don't know. There's always some level of uncertainty. And Max Scherzer over his entire career has been as close to certain of a performance as you can get. When was the last time Max Scherzer had a down year?
I'm looking at his stats page right now. 2011.
Okay, cool. So a decade.
Yeah.
You signed Max Scherzer at 27 years old to a 10-year contract. What Corey Seager just signed for $45 million a year. That's the most outrageous contract ever signed in baseball history. And it would have worked out beautifully. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, in that time, so Max Scherzer, since 2013, has received top 5 in Cy Young voting every single season, barring 2020. And even in that season, he had a 3.74 ERA, a 3.46 FIP. What did I say? 2017? Sorry, 2020. And his WAR was 2 in a shortened season.
It's stupid.
He pitched 67 innings and had 2 WAR. Fuck. It's really fucking good. There's so many bolded numbers on the stats page, man. It's dumb. It's stupid.
It's funny how that, you put a full season there and that's MVP numbers.
Yeah, I mean, he has almost as many seasons receiving MVP votes as he doesn't. He has 6 seasons in which he received MVP votes and 8 seasons where he didn't. He's a pitcher.
Is he pitcher's Mike Trout?
No, because Mike Trout got off to a hot start, and not that Scherzer was ever like bad. He just didn't get off to a hot start. He really got elite. He became Max Scherzer in 2013.
Yeah, I do get that.
But man, it's just wild to see. I mean, it's $43 million, man. I mean, it's more. It's been floating around Twitter, but that's more than the current payroll of the Pirates, the Guardians, and the Orioles. Going to one guy who's worth it.
Yeah, and that was exactly the thought that came to my mind. It's like, yeah, but still worth it. Doesn't matter.
There was a weird little interaction on Twitter. I don't know if you saw, but Rachel Luba, who is the agent for Trevor Bauer, tried to take credit for this. Did you see this?
No.
She was like, I'm so proud of the work that Trevor and I did to make these short-term high AAV contracts a thing. So happy to see this, like concept strategy being employed by other ball players. Like they fucking invented it.
You know what's really fun? And am just so happy we don't have to deal with anymore. Just not having Trevor Bauer in baseball just makes all of the baseball news surrounding baseball so much better. I just don't miss him whatsoever. I really don't.
No,
Like
life is so
we
much
talk
better.
about, like there's some aspects of sports where it's fun to have a heel and it's fun to have a bad guy to root against. Like, sure, whatever. But Trevor Bauer wasn't that guy.
No, the bad guy you want to root against is a guy like Max Scherzer, who's very, very angry on the field. And so that portrays a heel sense. But he's also a very, very seemingly nice and good person. He's just very, very good. And if you're a Mets fan, I guess prior to, if you're a Braves fan, you hate him.
Like Bryson DeChambeau for golf is very easy to hate. He wears a funny hat. He has a weird way of approaching golf. He makes wild, crazy statements, but he drives the ball 400 yards and is such a dork about golf. It's all he cares about. And he gets so giddy talking about it and promoting it and just wanting to make golf a fun time for everyone. It's like, yeah, fuck Bryson. He sucks, but I love that he's a part of golf. That's how you have to approach it.
Right.
Trevor Bauer should go to prison.
Fingers crossed. So there have been more contracts given out. Oh, actually, real quick. We've said for years that the Mets should be able to win their division with relative ease. We've said it for years because they've had good pitching, theoretically, forever. They brought in good hitters, theoretically, all the time. Robinson Cano. Where's he? Suspended. Yoenis Cespedes. Whatever happened to him? Broke both of his heels. Like it's been a comedy of misfortune in Queens. And so we've reached yet another inflection point where they've signed a third of their lineup and a guy who's going to either be their best starter or their second best starter, depending on Jacob deGrom's status next season. And I got to ask it again. Is this the Mets division to lose?
No. I mean, again, I don't know if I should be saying yes because of how awesome that roster is. But I still think it's the Braves until the Mets show anything short of resembling a threat to the Braves. I don't think we can handle the mantle until they earn it. And no matter how many players they sign, look at the Padres. They should have won the World Series. They didn't even make the playoffs. So
it's, and I mean, even just look at the Mets last season. They were running away with things and then just lost at an astonishing clip until the division slipped away from them. They spent over 100 days, like a third of a calendar year, on top of their division. A third of a calendar year in which a season is only half. And still managed to finish, what, third in their division last year? Yeah. Third. With 8 games under 500.
Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
So theoretically, how many wins do you think the Mets added between signing Eduardo Escobar, Mark Hanna, Starling Marte, and Max Scherzer? How many wins, net wins, do you think that is?
I could see that being a 10 to 15 win difference.
Because if we give it to him at 15, that puts him at 92 wins.
Yeah.
Which honestly feels low for how many people are on this roster.
I think it's also has to be, holy shit, is Francisco Lindor going to play baseball at 90% of what he's capable of? 80%? They got 80% for Francisco Lindor. I had to think about it that time. That's already a major improvement over what they got last year. Pete Alonso had a down year last year. So many players on the Mets just had awful seasons. I think this could be a team that approaches 100 wins. But it's the Mets, so I don't expect them to do that. It should be a 100-win team easily. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte. It's a star-studded team. They got depth. They've got pitching. They've got a pretty good rotation or a pretty good bullpen. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Low
No one ever knows who the
expectations.
Mets are. For years, the story of the Mets was that they could pitch, but they couldn't hit. And when they could hit, they could never hit in Citi Field. And then last season, they're finally able to do some hitting in Citi Field, and their pitching just like fucks them. And the team just shits the bed colossally. And who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? Yeah. Are the Braves going to get better? Because theoretically, you'd think the Braves are in a pretty good spot to get better. They didn't have Ronald Acuna Jr. for like half a season last year.
Yeah, for most of the season. I think it was more than half.
I think you're right. It was pre-All-Star break. He had that injury. And, like they can be active in free. They haven't done anything yet, but they certainly could. I mean, they have the capability to do so. I'd imagine that after you win a World Series, you'd like to defend it. So,
one would assume.
Also, the Phillies are still the Phillies. They're still a team with really good pieces on it that could improve a lot if they chose to.
They still have the reigning MVP. Yeah,
they do. And the Atlanta team, 11th in payroll right now with 116 million. So much room to go up. You have to absolutely assume Freddie Freeman's coming back with that little payroll committed on the books right now. Phillies are currently 6th in payroll with $162 million committed so far, which is $60 million less than the Mets right now. So depending on where the Phillies feel like they are too, they could also be a lot more active in free agency and make some interesting signings. But and that's part of what makes it tough to look at the Mets and be like, oh, you got this, because they've never easily had this. Like, it's never been yes, the Mets. Like everyone this year, the White Sox got this. And they did. It wasn't like super great, but I mean, everyone knew they were going to get it. And then they did. Then they won the division. Exactly like they planned on it, barely, without trying very hard. And that's kind of what it feels like the Mets should be able to do with how much better their roster looks, like 1-to-1 with everybody else's. But it's the Mets. That it never happens like that. So we'll see.
I have so little hope.
Oh, yeah. Oh, ye of little hope. That's me, right here. Hand held high.
I had the lowest expectations, and I'm still disappointed.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks.
All right, I think...
Let's end this shit. We've been on here forever.
Yeah, again, there have been...
Holy shit, yes, we have.
Yeah.
Wow.
There have been other contract signings. There's been a whole bunch of other contract signings. We're not getting to all the other fucking contract signings. There's too many contracts that have been signed.
If we discussed every contract that gets signed, we would never talk about anything else.
And depending on how these negotiations go, we might have plenty of time to talk about every contract that's been signed in the past 48 hours, because chances are there's not going to be too much news. There is a story that got broken by Bradford Davis of, I think he wrote this for Business Insider, about MLB using 2 different baseballs over the course of the season, depending on the matchup.
I did see that, yeah.
We will get into that probably next episode at the earliest. We'll have to see, just based on time. But
imagine Rob Manfred going to prison for racketeering charges. Ugh.
And that's part of the things we talked about for a while, is like, what are the greater implications of sports betting? Because now if you admit, or there is verifiable fact that you altered the playing conditions of a game on purpose, what does that mean for the people who bet on those games? Like, you can go ahead and say that, like, no one cares about, I think their example was like Mariners Royals or some shit. But the problem is, I bet a fuck ton of people bet on those games and did care because they bet on those games. And like, you fucked with the conditions on purpose for fun.
And when it comes down to it, oh God, I just forgot my fucking point again.
Shall I wrap it up?
Yeah.
So we'll get into that more later. Stay tuned.
It doesn't matter if they legalize gambling. It matters that the league partnered with them. Yes.
There we go. closing on a high note. So if you'd like to follow the show in the meantime, you can do so at Juicing Pod. If you'd like to send, if you'd like to follow Corwin on Twitter, you can do so at Corwin Heller. If you'd like to follow myself on Twitter, you can do so at Joshua D. Tracy. If you'd like to send emails to the show, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Monday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.